So, Beth O'Leary is a best-selling British author known for her heartwarming and humorous contemporary fiction. Her debut novel, The Flatshare, became a global hit. And she's now about to publish her next book, which is Swept Away. And I'm putting money on this one. It's going to be this year's must-have beach read. I'm almost regretting reading it because now I can't read it again for the first time. It's one of those books. And I've got no doubt it's going to make its way to the big or the little screen, like The Flatshare and The Road Trip. Welcome to my book club, Beth O'Leary.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Now, as we were just saying, as we were chatting before we came on, you know I've been pursuing you for ages because I have been such a big admirer of your novels. I just love the warmth and the romance and the warm humor that comes through. You are a global sensation now. Everybody wants a piece of you.
Oh gosh, I don't feel like a global sensation at all. I feel very much like the person I was when I wrote the Flatshare on my commute to and from work.
You wrote, is that when you wrote it, when you were commuting into work?
Yeah, I wrote that book on the train. Yeah, that was and it was my sort of passion project, I suppose. My hobby was writing novels. So yes, that novel was read by some commuters before anyone else got it. The guy that sat in the seat behind me, you know, like on the regular commuter trains, you get the same people. I'm sure he must have he must have had a peek.
You didn't just hand the papers back to him and just say,
Yeah.
"Can you just check
Look,
on this?
just
What
have
do
a
you
read.
think?" It's a bit of a rom-com. What do you think about this one?
Yeah.
That's a lovely story. So you were in publishing, weren't you, originally? Did you work in children's publishing?
I did, yes. I worked in licensed publishing, so I did sort of activity books and things that went along with TV shows and toys and stuff like that. It was a really fun, creative place to work, and it also meant I was in the building with, you know, people who had well in a place where my dream, which was always to be an author, was coming true for people. I think so. It sort of showed me that it can happen.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Was it always a childhood dream that you would write and you purposefully found yourself in the publishing industry to feed that dream?
I'd say it was more just that I loved books, and so I always knew I wanted to be a writer, but I also never felt that it was a very achievable dream, I think. So it was always sort of a yeah, it was a dream, and a hobby, and so I felt I should probably get a job that I was actually being paid for. And so publishing felt like the perfect place because I love books. And then, yeah, it definitely supported my writing sort of more than I realised it would, really, especially given that the type of writing that I do is so different from what I was working on. No, yeah, as I say, it showed me that it happens for people, you know, and I kind of felt like, well, maybe I could be one of those people.
Did you have lots of rejections before your first novel was accepted?
I did indeed. In fact, Tanara, who is my agent now, was the only person that wanted to read more than the first three chapters of the Flatshare, who I sent it to. So when people say it only takes one yes, I really do sort of find that I say that all the time because no one else said yes, and then she did, and my life completely changed. And she helped me enormously with the novel and the kind of sort of wonderful snowball effect of everything that happened since has been all thanks to that one yes.
And it was a bit of a snowball effect. How does it feel seeing your words lifted off the page and going to the screen? Did you find that they treated your book the way you wanted it to be treated? Because obviously it's your ownership, it's your characters, it's your people. To see them portrayed on the screen, were you really pleased with the result?
I was, and actually the thing that was most wonderful about it was the sort of almost reverence with which the team kind of approached the book. I felt so respected, and you know, that's something that as a rom-com writer you can't always take for granted. You know, it is a genre that people can tend to look down on a little bit, I think, and I didn't know quite how it would be going into the kind of big screen world. But everyone loved the book, and that was really all I wanted. I wanted a group of people that approached it with love. So both adaptations that have made it to the screen, which is a bizarre sentence that I never thought I'd say. I think, had that same sort of love and appreciation for the story, which really meant so much to me.
And the more that you grow with your publishing reputation, the more I would imagine you can have a little more say on set or even in terms of who is cast. I want to get onto that with Swept Away in a little bit because I think it's very important when you read a book. For many people, anyway. For me, I always visualize those people. They become, if it's a good book, they become utterly real to me. I know their eye color. I know what their hair looks like. I know what kind of clothes they wear. And you sort of inhabit them. And then you sort of feel a sense of bereavement at the end of the book when the plot is all finished and things are all tied up. And you think, oh, I can't read for a bit now because it's just, and that's how I felt about Swept Away. It's not often.
Oh,
I really feel
a
like
book
that.
hangover. You had a book hangover. That's
I
what
had
my
a
friends
book
would call it.
hangover.
When you read such a good book that you think like, I'm never drinking again. I'm never reading again. I can't read anything else.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
I'm
nothing's
so
going to
flattered.
match it. Yeah, well,
Mm.
truly, I feel regret that I can't go and read it fresh now. I will read it again, and I do think it is going to be one of those really, really popular sort of summer beach reads. Not because it's light and frothy, but because it's so readable, because you can just pick it up and just really get into it. So,
Thank
well, let's talk a
you.
little bit about the plot. Where did you come up with the idea for Swept Away?
Yes. So Swept Away is probably my one of my most high concept ideas, I think. It's about two strangers who end up lost at sea together after a one night stand on a houseboat that is swept out to open ocean. And I actually had the idea years and years before I started writing, and I thought I was playing around with the kind of stranded on a desert island trope. I loved that idea of having two people somewhere where there's no one else in the world, and I was also at the same time, a few friends of friends and people's boyfriends were buying houseboats as a
It's
way to
quite
sort of,
trendy, isn't it?
it
Yes, instead
was,
of
there was
the
like
high
a,
rent in London.
absolutely. And there was a sort of, it became almost like a slightly millennial kind of, had a little millennial moment. And I think the two things just sort of came together in my head and I loved it as a sort of something I'd never seen before as a way to kind of create that forced proximity between two characters and in a place where there was nobody else. But I was also, to be honest, I was quite intimidated by the idea of it because it was so. I thought two people in one place, it's like a play. Like how could I do it? And I backed away from it and I wrote other novels and it didn't really come back to me until after the pandemic, actually, which I think is no coincidence because we all sort of had that experience of being trapped with one other person or with our families or whatever. And I think I thought a lot about kind of solitude and togetherness, and they just became sort of ideas that I was more interested in again. And I think this is such a good example of an idea having to come to you at the right moment. And also, I became a mum, and I think that really changed my confidence. I feel like I sort of have become, I think this is quite common for women. I think I've sort of become more grounded in myself and I'm more assured, I think, now, having kind of somehow managed to look after a tiny person. And I don't know, I also kind of experienced that new sort of love and not just for my baby, but also for my partner. Like my husband became, we were in this sort of chaotic crisis together. It's how it often felt, and there was a sort of um wonderful, the two of you being having one shared mission in the way that you do
Yeah,
when you've got a very
against
small
the
baby.
world. You're reliant on each
Absolutely.
other entirely.
And
And it
it's
can really
actually really
deepen your love,
romantic.
can't it? It can really,
Totally.
really deepen it.
And you see them in a different way, and yeah, and it was just a new way to, it's sort of a new kind of love. And obviously, as a romance author, I found that totally fascinating. I wanted something. I wanted a big story because I wanted to write big love, like a big against the odds. I die for you, love. And I kind of came back to that epic adventure that I'd thought, oh my gosh, that's so intimidating. And I thought maybe it's actually the perfect vessel for writing about those sorts of feelings. And
See
so
what
I
you did
came back
there,
to
that
it.
vessel.
Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do that. honestly, they're everywhere. As soon as you've written a book about a boat, you'll find nautical puns are just they come at you from every angle. I feel like I
Oh,
narrowly
that was
avoided one
perfect.
there as well.
Absolutely perfect. Yeah, they're like buses, they all come at once, except they're ships. But yes, I can see what you mean
Yeah,
by
ships
that
all
sort
coming at
of
once.
that insular intensity of basically only having one, possibly two rooms. And this couple, the two protagonists, they don't even know each other. So they've got to learn to get to know each other in this kind of very scary environment. They think it might be what, a few hours, it might be a day. Oh, it's longer than a
Mm.
day, it's longer than a few days. And I think, we go on that journey with them as we grow and their relationship grows. It's sort of delicious to see how they keep putting their toes in the water to get a little bit more depth within their conversations and their relationship until it really genuinely feels like something has grown out of it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really wanted them to sort of essentially have to go deep, because you're with each other for so long. And I thought a lot about sort of what this setup, as wild as it sounds, what it actually gave me was an opportunity to sort of, if you strip all of the kind of adventure out of it, it's actually an opportunity for two people who would normally walk away after one night to have no choice but to sit together and talk. And that was just so, like you say, delicious. Like that's the perfect. I found that as a writer too, because I really felt that what would actually happen in that situation if you were together 24/7 is things would get very deep very quickly, and your relationship would become very deep very quickly, and kind of almost like I've just been watching Love is Blind on Netflix. The way that the two people kind of being
Exactly.
intensely thrown together like that, they do, the feelings are very, very intense very quickly.
And actually, I suppose that's something that in this rushed world where we speed date and we don't have time, it's all online, and you swipe left really quickly. We don't really give ourselves much opportunity to invest in an early relationship that could have been the one that got away. I've never thought about it
Mm,
in that way before, but we're so busy. Oh, no, not that one, on to the next one. But if you were
mm,
forced to spend more time with somebody who might just be your match, you may not know that
mm,
for quite some time.
mm. And I think also when you have, oh, have you lost me for a moment there?
No, good, we're good.
No. Okay, sorry, I thought my might cut out. I think also when you've got that sort of the temporariness of you have people who particularly find the next stage difficult. So I really wanted my characters to be people who it was particularly interesting to make make stay together, because I think if you've been hurt before, it can be extra hard, especially when there's all that choice and you think like, oh, it's easier to just sort of date casually and not kind of let myself get close to anyone. So Lexi and Zeke each have their very different places, and they both have their reasons for it being a one night stand. And I loved not letting them get their way and not letting them get off the boat.
That's true. And I think, people do sort of go into their patterns of behavior and, perhaps Zeke, who might like to sleep around for reasons of his own, demons that he is fighting, and Lexi, who has a sort of more bohemian attitude to life and just wants a good time. It was an opportunity to sort of knock their heads together and just say, like, try being a grown up, try and have an
Mm,
adult relationship where you really do thoughtfully appreciate somebody else's good
mm,
and bad parts. And I enjoyed that within the plot. It's not all just romance. Everything goes swimmingly. There's certainly peril. There's certainly times of anxiety, and
mm.
even just, of course, she doesn't know who this young man is. She slept with him, but actually, she has no idea if he's an axe murderer. It's kind of comical, but
Yeah.
also you could see that happening.
It was really important to me to add in that kind of moment where, quite early on, this isn't a spoiler, but Lexi sort of realizes exactly as you say, like, I'm alone with a man, and I don't really know him, and I just felt sort of that was something that I really needed to have in there, because I just felt as a woman she probably would have that thought. And I also wanted us to be able to set that thought aside, to really enjoy the journey. I didn't want us to have in the back of our heads like, oh, do we definitely feel safe with this guy? And I think it also helps a little bit that they're dynamic. They have there's a bit of an age gap, so he's a little bit younger than her. These are all things that I played with to try and kind of look at that sort of power dynamic. The one thing I really wanted to avoid was having this sort of heroic man surviving at sea with a woman there to assist him. And I really didn't want it to feel like he was the action hero and she was the, sexy
It's like
sidekick.
that. It's like that Reese Witherspoon speech. Have you ever seen the bit when she says she reads scripts and she gets to the bit where the woman says, "What shall we do?" And she says, "What woman
Yeah,
in a predicament ever says, 'Oh, what shall we do?'" They just get on with it, and that's what Lexi does.
absolutely. Totally. And but also I see he's a character who's sort of he's not that stereotypical guy who jumps into action. Like, he actually doubts himself a lot. And I really wanted to kind of write I guess, like, he's quite a emotionally sensitive, emotionally aware guy. And that was fun too. And my last hero was much more in the wake up call. He's a sort of gruff, grumpy, strong and silent type. So it was a real contrast to kind of come into Zeke's world, where he's open about being in therapy and he talks about how he's feeling, and yeah, it was a joy to be with him, to be in his brain.
Well, we just touched on Hollywood there, and at the beginning of our chat, we were saying how, how important it is for great visuals to really, live and breathe and see that person lift off the page of a book so that they become real. For me, I have to say, Zeke was Timothy Chalamet all the way through.
Wow. Oh, I love knowing that. So I never have a. I know some writers actually will use a celebrity to sort of help them hang a kind of character visually, or maybe affectations and kind of mannerisms and things like that. And I just can't do that. And actually, I find I'm often asked, like, who do you see playing these parts? And I used to sort of try and come up with something, but these days I'm just quite honest and say I can't do it. It's too weird. But I love hearing yours because I love hearing other people's, because it's so interesting, because it tells me so much about what readers take from the characters. So yeah, I love that. I'm always keen to hear people's dream casting.
Well, I think this will get cast. I really do, because I mean, the panorama, the tiny boat, the big sea. It's just got so much that it can offer to a really, really cool movie. I think. I hope it's going to be
Oh.
optioned soon. I really do. Um,
Thank you. And I love that you saw that visual, because for me, I spent so much time kind of working on both the sense of claustrophobia and massive openness. It was a real sort of interesting thing to play with from a writer's point of view. So I'm glad you felt that in the novel.
Potentially so dangerous too. You're on a
Mm.
flat boat, and all sorts of things can and do go wrong, which is what makes it interesting, I guess. Now, you've done and dusted Swept Away, and it's coming out on the 8th of April. Isn't it? The hardback will be out
That's
on the
right.
8th of April. Looking forward to that. Well done. But you're already well into another novel, aren't you? You're busy.
Yes, I'm always writing. If I'm not writing, I don't really feel like myself. It's just, yeah, even when I'm kind of in the late stages of editing a novel, I tend to have another one on the go, because that part of my creative brain needs to be whirring. So yes, it will be my seventh book, the one I'm working on at the moment, which just feels unbelievable. A seventh published book, I should say. There were many unpublished books before the Flatshare. So yeah, I'm just loving having that to kind of. It's a funny thing when you're publicizing a novel, because it's such a, as I am, with Swept Away, getting out and about in the world and talking to people about it, standing in front of people, and it's such a contrast to the rest of my job, which is sort of sitting in a little shed and
And
typing
quiet.
away and with
Having a
no one
cup
to
of
talk
tea.
to. Yeah. So it's actually it's both. It's lovely to have both, but it's really lovely at the moment to be working on the next novel. It's always my top tip to aspiring writers is to always be working on the next thing, because it makes putting yourself out there with one thing a little less painful, because it's a very vulnerable thing to show someone your story. So as Swept Away, I'm going to do it. Sails out into the world.
There you
I had
go.
to. I had to. I'm also enjoying sort of cozying up every so often with the next story.
Well, I don't blame you. You are a fabulous, fabulous writer, Beth. I'll read anything you ever write, as will
Oh,
so many. Look, I'm looking at the cover here. Marion Keyes. It was so romantic. I adored it. Jodie Pickle. I drowned happily in this book. Paige Toon. Oh, she's coming on book club soon. My new favourite, Beth
oh,
O'Leary. Lucy
oh! I'm a
Clark.
huge Page fan. I
Oh,
know. I
that's
can't believe it. I mean, I'm like I'm in disbelief at the amazing writers that have said such lovely things about this book.
well, people can get it from Amazon and all good booksellers from next Tuesday. That's the 8th of April. And Beth O'Leary, has been really such a pleasure to talk to you. If they want to find out more about your life in the Cotswolds, your writing process, what you do, you're on Instagram quite a lot, aren't you?
I am, yes, definitely find me there or on Facebook. Or these days, I'm also on TikTok. If
Oh,
anyone
look
is
at
on that,
you.
I know. Look at me. I'm genuinely rather proud of myself.
It's hard, isn't it, managing all these social media platforms? But well done. You do it well, and
Thank you.
bathe in the glory of this next book and all the wonderful things that you've got on screen already. I think The Road Trip is playing on Channel 5 at the moment, I believe.
The
It was on
Flatshare is on Channel 5 at the moment.
Flatshare. Yes, I've got that
Yeah.
recorded to watch it all over again. But The Road Trip, that might
Oh,
be
great.
Paramount Plus, right?
It is. You're right.
Yes,
Yes.
you're all
It's on
over the
Paramount
place.
Plus.
Look at you.
I'm
And
everywhere. I can't believe it.
anyway, Beth, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you today for Michelle's
You
Book Club.
too.
Thank
Thank you so much for
you.
having me.
Thank you. That was lovely.